Hey there, welcome to the latest episode of the Sexy Thyroid Solution. I'm your host, Angela Brown. So today I want to talk about the connection with gut health and thyroid function. But first, if you could do me a really huge favor, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, and then you're going to hit that little bell so you get a notification every Thursday when I release a new video. And then if you're watching this on my other channels, I would love if you would share this with someone who would benefit from this information. So let's go ahead and start talking about this. So I've talked a little bit about this in past videos. I recently did a video that was on birth control use with thyroid function, and I talked a little bit in there about the connection with gut health, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth here and give you some more insight into it and maybe a few tips as well of what you could do with it. So just for a few little facts here that are a little eye-opening, I feel like, especially when I read these years ago. Some of the stuff, I was not aware of how much there was a connection with gut health and hormone stuff and all that. Think about this fact. 80% of your immune system actually is housed in your gut. So that's why when your gut is off, you can get a lot of inflammation as well as autoimmune conditions. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is the autoimmune aspect of hypothyroidism, and that's why there's such a massive connection with gut health and something called Hashimoto's, because there's so much immune system inside your gut tract, which is actually a really, really large amount if you think about it. The other thing to also keep in mind, there's 80 million neurons that are housed inside your gut. That's a lot of neurons. And I don't know if you ever heard this, but your gut is your second brain. That's what they mean by that. Your gut can function independently of what your brain is doing because it has so many neurons. So that's why, again, it's so important to make sure that you're really honing in on your gut health and taking care of it. If the gut is really, really off, it can throw pretty much everything in the body off. So that's one of the things that I want to talk about is how it is connected to the thyroid and your hormones in general. So a lot of your hormones are actually metabolized and eliminated through your digestive tract. So think about something like estrogen. When you use estrogen, you need to get rid of it. You can't have it recirculating. It's not a good form of estrogen, and it can give a lot of women estrogen dominant symptoms. So if you're really, really constipated, if the gut's inflamed, it's just ticked off, and you're super constipated, you're not going to clear that estrogen and use estrogen. Like I said, it's not a good thing to have circulating back around in your body. So you need to make sure that you're constantly having bowel movements so that you are getting rid of, first of all, toxins, but something like used estrogen. Also keep in mind that your gut lining is like your intestinal barrier, basically. So what can happen is when the gut health is really off and things are ticked off and inflamed, it becomes permeable. And that's something that can happen a lot with hypothyroidism, especially with Hashimoto's, the autoimmune hypothyroidism. I see it very commonly. Almost everyone with Hashimoto's actually does have something like this, and it's called leaky gut. Literally the particles leak out. They're getting in areas they're not supposed to go, and what happens? It's an inflammatory response. Well, in an autoimmune condition, you're already in this inflammatory response, and that's why people can actually develop Hashimoto's with or without even having just straight hypothyroidism to begin with, because of this leaky gut thing that's happening. There's this inflammatory response constantly happening. Also, when you have this really big imbalance of your good bacteria and your bad bacteria, that actually reduces the conversion of your inactive T4 to your active T3. So I've said this before, you only make about 20% active T3, so you have to have a conversion of T4 over T3. Well, a lot of that conversion can happen inside your gut. Over 20% of it happens there. That's a pretty large number. So because of that, if the gut flora is off, like a gut dysbiosis, you're going to end up having a really, really big reduction in thyroid hormone conversion. The other thing that also has a big contribution is when there's all this inflammation going on, it actually reduces the overall amount of your T3. T3 is that active thyroid hormone. Everyone needs T3. It'll actually reduce that because when you have inflammation, you're going to be under this chronic sort of stress thing. It causes cortisol to go up. Cortisol is your fight or flight. It's your stress hormone. Cortisol will go up. One of the things that cortisol does is it actually increases reverse T3. And I've talked about this before as well, that that's something that you should actually have checked on a full thyroid panel to see, do you have enough active T3? And if not, why? Because sometimes it's just reverting backwards to the inactive form of T3, which is called reverse T3. And that happens a lot when there's a lot of stress going on or there's inflammation, like particularly inside the gut. You're going to get this chronic stress response and a decrease in that actual active T3. If you're constantly constipated too, I talked about how estrogen cannot get recirculated. When you have constipation going on, you're not getting that estrogen to clear. You also can get a really large rise in thyroid binding globulin. And think about that name, binding. Thyroid binding globulin hormone, it binds to your actual thyroid hormone. That will get increased when you're constipated, when your gut is inflamed. And unfortunately, because of that, that's going to bind onto your thyroid hormone. You're not going to have enough thyroid hormone floating around then. So just another reason why you need to make sure that you're addressing constipation and it's not lingering on for days and days at a time, because that just starts adding up and you're going to have a big reduction in that active thyroid hormone then because of that. Thyroid hormone is going to go down. The other thing to also keep in mind, you can have symptoms, all these gut issues happen from hypothyroidism. You can have hypothyroidism because of all those things happening in the gut. They both feed off of each other. Either way, it doesn't really matter. You have to address both things. Whether it's started as hypothyroidism, whether it started as a gut issue, doesn't really matter. You have to address both. You need to go after both things because they are connected. They go hand in hand. So what are some things that you can do about it? One thing is, because we need to get the inflammation in the gut to kind of stay low, eliminating any food sensitivities and inflammatory foods. And this is not always an easy one, but anytime you have gut issues going on and or hypothyroidism, you really have to watch inflammatory foods. So things like gluten, sugar, dairy, processed foods, even alcohol can be very, very inflammatory. If you have a slow thyroid, whether you have been diagnosed with hypothyroidism or not, but you suspect you have a slow thyroid, you've got to cut out those inflammatory things and get things to settle down a little bit. Something else is to sort of repair the gut. Using things like superfoods to kind of chill the stomach lining out. Bone broth is a really good way. I love marshmallow root is a really good way. Aloe, slippery elm, you can do all those things. They make them in powder forms, they make them in pill form. Aloe, I actually really like to settle an uneasy stomach or one that's just really inflamed. You can get fresh aloe and peel the layer off or whatever and use that. You can get it in liquid as well, but it's really, really good for just settling the stomach down. And then nourishing it. So you need to make sure you're getting lots of good probiotic and prebiotic foods, fermented foods, things like that. If you have to utilize a probiotic itself in pill form, I do recommend something like a spore-based probiotic. They're very absorbable. They do really well on almost everyone. So those are just some ways that you can really hone in on your gut health and try to make sure that you're boosting your thyroid function and your hormone function and connect those two very easily. So let me know too, what are your favorite tricks for your gut health? I would love to know what your favorite tricks are as well. I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. And I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.